try and help us change the world, because everybody who's listening to this, they can. And it starts just by going out to your neighbors and saying, how can I help you?
You're listening to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. What's up, my friends? Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, Create Your Career. This is conversation number 146, total episodes number 238. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited for yet another episode. My guest today is the powerful Scott Flansbaum. And Scott is a former Marine. He had a weird, unexpected accident, and he became paralyzed. And the doctors told him multiple times that he would never walk again. And when I stumbled over to his Instagram page, I saw him walking. I said, how could this be? I have to get you on the episode. I have to get into your mind and share how you overcame this, share when it was dark, and share when it was light. His story is another one that just blew me away. He's a great guy. He has a lot of good things to say. This was a phenomenal episode, and I can't wait to share it. Remember, you can find this episode and all other episodes on kristoflewis.com/podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Kristof Lewis. Head over to YouTube. You can watch the conversations and subscribe there. That would be massively helpful, but the best way to help the podcast out would be to share it with other people and check out all of the other 240 plus episodes. Thank you so much for being here. I never take it for granted. I hope that during these times, you and your family are well, you are safe, and you are doing what you can to help other people remotely. It is possible. It's some of what we talk about in this episode and so much more. This was a really good one, and it just really brightened up my day, and there's no limit to what we can't accomplish. So without further ado, welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, Create Your Career.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Scott, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm always excited, and I am just so honored to have you on here for a plethora of reasons, but today is Sunday. I typically record Tuesday through Thursday, and I adhere to that really strictly so I can have time with my family and my guests can have time with their family, but with all the virus stuff going on, all three of my guests that I was going to record with couldn't record last week because of just life events. So I put out the bat signal, on Instagram, and I was like, can anybody record early? And you just hit me up immediately, and here we're all doing it. So I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, I would have missed a beat for the first time in 2 years of podcasting if you hadn't have stepped up, man. And you're the only one that stepped up. So I'm just so honored to have you on here today.
Well, man, my pleasure. My freaking pleasure. Dude. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, so before we get into the rest of the episode, I'd love to learn a little bit more about who you are. And for the listeners that don't know who you are, do you mind telling us a little bit more about who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Scott Flansbaum. I'm a former Marine, infantryman, did 4 years in the Marine Corps, father of 4 girls, and probably the reason we got linked up or met was because 18 months ago, I went in for a routine medical procedure and was paralyzed from the chest down and told I was never going to walk again.
Wow. And
basically, been fighting ever since and have defied all the odds and just been trying to share my story of overcoming everything that my family and I have gone through and just trying to give people, it's funny, in the middle of us recording this, there's a pandemic going on, a crisis where people are going through something that I've never been through. And so, just showing people that sometimes life throws you a curveball. Yeah. And sometimes that can be one of the best things that ever happens to you. So my family and I got 4 girls, like I said, and a wife, and we've been going through it for the last 18 months. So yeah, we're just trying to inspire the world.
And you are, man. That's why I said the first time I saw you I don't know how I landed upon your page, but it's probably because we have mutual friends on Instagram or something like that. And I like reading people's posts and reading how they're engaging with people. And I was like, this guy's awesome. I love what he's doing. That is crazy what had happened to you. I think even more so because this happened post-military, right? This was, you said, just a random procedure, if you will, and was this a risk at all of this procedure, or did you expect this, or did you? I mean, obviously you didn't expect this, but were they like this
Right.
could happen to you, or how did that come about?
So it's like a 1 in a million type thing. So I went in for a epidural injection. I know. You were an RTO, right?
Yeah. I was an electronics
Yeah.
technician, and then I served as an RTO for 4 years.
Okay. So
Yeah.
carrying all that weight on your back is not good for you. I'm sure you probably have aches and pains in your back,
Yes,
and
sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, myself too. So they can go in and do those epidural injections where they just kind of calm the nerves down, and so yeah, it is a 1 in a million type thing.
Wow.
I found out, but I am that 1 in a million, and unfortunately, I hit the wrong lottery, and so it's there, it, but you never expect it to happen.
Sure.
I mean, it is just so rare. I've probably done more bad business for the epidural injection business because of my story, but because a lot of people do it, but I'd done it a dozen times before this and had no problems. So it was, it was at that point where, I just didn't expect it at all.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it was a risk, but it's a 1 in a million.
I want to know, like, what was going on through your mind during these times when this initially happened. You said it had happened to you. You'd done it like 10, 11, 12 times, and you're literally just going in. You're expecting to be an outpatient, I'm assuming, and go on about your day and hopefully mitigate your pain a little bit. But when you were initially told, I mean, you were told that you weren't going to walk again, correct? Like there was no chance at all?
Yeah. So what happened is I went in at 8 a.m. I was supposed to meet my wife at 9:15 for a contractor at the house. I mean, that was like, like I said, routine, outpatient. I called her, and I'll make this very brief, the 5-minute synopsis, but I told her something was wrong. And then I slowly went paralyzed from my right leg to my left leg to finally so we finally went over to Mayo Hospital and they transported me over there. And I came out of a CT scan. And when I went back, I looked at my wife, I go, we got real problems. And she goes, why is that? I go, I cannot feel anything from my chest down. And that's where I knew, like, this is progressing, like this is getting worse. And that's when the emergency room, the neurosurgery team came in and told us, this is what happened. You have spinal hematoma, you're bleeding out in your spinal cord. We need to rush you into surgery like yesterday. And we're going to do everything in our power to make it where you're not paralyzed for the rest of your life. But we can assure you that you will never walk again. Wow. And then they walked out because they had stuff to do to prep me. And they left my wife and I in that room together. And we just looked at each other and just started bawling. And people always ask, like you did, how do you process that? And it's like, you really don't. Mm-hmm. You're just like, you're in shock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, they told me I'd never walk again. And then when I got out of surgery, my neurosurgeon, who I didn't even meet before I went into surgery, the head of neurosurgery for all of Mayo, told me again, because my right leg was still paralyzed even after surgery. And he told me, he's like, I see this every day. And he goes, you're going to be in a wheelchair the rest of your life.
So does that mean you said your right leg was still paralyzed and your left leg, you had a little bit of feeling or movement or something in there, but like half of you was still kind of lagging behind or something, or okay.
It was just they went in, they had the first A, stop the bleeding, and then B, they had to clean out the spinal cord because your spinal cord doesn't want anything but spinal cord fluid in it.
Sure.
And then they had to take 8 levels of my neck from C2, which is at the base of your skull, to T3 halfway down my back and open up that bone. And because there was so much pressure, they had to relieve that pressure. Wow. And then they left it open and caged it.
Dude, so, that's heavy. That's heavy.
So, yeah, it was.
So and that's said about 18 months ago now. And here you are, dude, because that's like one of the things. Okay, so like I go to your page and I'm like paralyzed, but this dude's walking around. And I'm like, So describe to us, and I'm so curious, and I read a little bit about it, but I want to know more about. So I asked you about the mindset behind you initially finding out and post-op, but when were you like, I'm not going to let what they said dictate the rest of my life? Like, I'm going to do something about this. So walk us through the beginning mindset of that, maybe what worked for you, some of the thoughts that worked for you, maybe people that helped you, anything like that.
Yeah. So I had been in a car accident just, years of the military, 10 years before this, and basically had a really bad, was pretty much bedridden for a few years and had to have
Wow.
spinal fusion and all this stuff. But I truly believe, looking back on that, it was because my mindset wasn't like it was now. And I say this, like I failed at that. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have that Marine Corps mindset, right? That
Yeah.
military mindset. And so with this one, so you learn from your past mistakes. So when I came out of this, it was 4 girls, one of which was 1 year, just turned 1 a week earlier, literally a week earlier. And it was from the very beginning. I remember these 2 things, which they're so important now, but it wasn't like I really put thought into it. It was just, I don't want to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. So whatever they ask me to do, I'm not going to tell them no. And then whatever they ask me to do, I'm going to do twice as much. And that was my mindset from the second I started. And then lastly, I told my wife, who's a super private person, if you're friends with her on Instagram, she maybe has she's the opposite of me. She has 12 posts, right? And I'm like, I'm going to document this, because I thought I was documenting it for myself, because I think back to 10 years earlier when I went through that, and I wish I had documented it to kind of go back and see the mistakes and what I did wrong and what I did right. And then, of course, it turned into something much bigger. But the biggest thing is I was going to do those 2 things, because I made a promise to God right before I went under that if he gave me the chance to not be in a wheelchair, to walk again, I would do anything to get there.
Man, that's really powerful. And I just love that. As I told you in the beginning, the very beginning, I'm always so humble to have people on here. And it's because so many times I just walk away saying, damn, that was really powerful. And for me to be able to say that in a lot of episodes just means so much to me. So I appreciate you sharing that story with me. And like I was saying before we started recording, there's a reason why I ask the questions I ask, because no matter what variable it is in your life, for you, it was being told you're not going to be able to walk again. You had some functionality back, but you're still going to be wheelchair ridden. So if you're listening and you have something in your life, people are telling you that you can't do it, whether it be something physical, whether it be something mental, whatever it is, that doesn't have to be the way it is. There are things you can do, and I love that you made these promises to yourself. And again, if you're listening, to whatever you believe in, whatever you want to do, make that promise that you're going to do whatever it takes. But then what did you do? You followed through. Right. So no matter how simple it is, or how complicated it is, or how much we're, not, or wheelchair ridden, or whatever it is, wherever you wind up on the spectrum, do what it takes, but actually do that. Don't just talk about it. So obviously you did that. And now, like I said, I saw you on these posts and I'm like, holy crap, this guy's really doing it, and you're continuing to do it. And I love that you're documenting it. And it's cool to hear that you initially did it for yourself, but then it just turns into something bigger. And I love how that happens, don't you? I mean, it's crazy how that happens.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's probably your whole podcast, right?
Yeah.
I listen to your podcast, and the same thing. And the world needs this. And I tell people all the time, because this is the number one thing I get is, I talk to somebody and they're like, why am I complaining? Who am I complaining to? I'm complaining to you. And I tell people all the time, like, no. I'm like, if you want to have a contest of who has it worse, yeah, I'll probably win that contest. Okay. But your problems are your problems. And like you just said, it doesn't matter if you're a spinal cord injury patient. That was my post yesterday, it doesn't matter. Everybody has problems. And like you said, if you just go after them, you can really fix your problems. And your problems are your problems. I don't care. And every day when I wake up, I think of every person that's in a wheelchair that didn't have the miracle I had and hasn't had that yet. And that's where I get my motivation, because I would, it's my honor to be the light for them, to show them that, because I truly believe with medicine, like I'm about to get a robotic exoskeleton leg brace. Okay. That is, yeah, I walk around my house, no problem, but it's exhausting. And
Yeah.
and what
Yeah.
people don't see are the little things that still don't work.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer that in 10 years, everybody that's paralyzed is going to walk again somehow,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's through exoskeletons, whether it's through virtual reality, whether it's through stem cells, whether it's through their grit. But I was saying yesterday, be ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Be ready for that. How do you do that? Exactly what you're just talking about, you know?
Yeah, and I love that you have that output on it as well. Like, have that optimism, right? Have that
Yes.
expectability of where it will happen, because if you don't believe it will happen, I guarantee you it won't happen. That's
Right.
imagination. That's like, I love sci-fi, because you always see in sci-fi movies they're doing these things, decades or hundreds of years in advance, and a lot of times the scientific ideas come from people's imagination and in fiction and things like that. So if we are allowing ourselves to think about these possibilities in real life, those possibilities can become our realities, and that's real life right there, and that's what you're doing. And I love that you give options as well. It's like, oh, I have this like exoskeleton, and it can be whatever, even virtual reality. I love that you brought that in there as well. Like, it can become feasible in some way, and it's going to be different for everybody. And then even if I could
Right.
backstep another step and talk about what you talked about before, is, your problems are yours, my problems are mine, and I don't think it makes it any less or any worse or any different. And I love that you said it in a sense of not trying to compare your issues to somebody else, but just do what you can do for yourself. And then obviously a huge part of this podcast is helping other people as well. So help other people too. So that's, like you said, that's probably how your podcast is. It is. I do it a lot for myself, but I love that I can share it for other people. So I always like kind of asking the questions of what, and you, because you're helping people a lot as well through sharing your story and the kind of posts and just engaging with the community. So where does that come from? I mean, you could be just, this is for me, I just want to focus on me, it's already tough for me, but you're going out and you're doing this podcast with me, you're speaking with other people. So where does that passion or that inspiration for helping other people come from for you?
Yeah, I think it comes back to just being a kid. I was always that kid that stuck up for the people that couldn't stick up for themselves. And I don't say that to brag about myself. It caused me so many problems as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many fights, I got involved in so many other people's problems where if I just looked the other way, it wouldn't have, like, my life would have been so much easier. And that's why I wanted to become a Marine, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I truly believe, like, I've always been the type that stuck up for other people and who couldn't stick up for themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It's partially that. It's also, I just, when you go through these tough things, and especially, 10 years ago when I went through that, it's like you just see so many people are just cruising through life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And especially now with this whole coronavirus and everything.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, people are cruising through life, just not really. And because you're in the military, people don't understand how the rest of the world lives, which is
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
coronavirus is a joke to them. They're like, this is what I do every single day. And you don't get through life without your tribe. And I just feel, I mean, this, there's a high that comes with helping other people.
Yeah, man.
People don't realize. And so it's like, you can either help people and get that high and feel better, or you can be selfish and just take care of yourself. And I just would rather be that person that helps other people. And once again, I got 4 little minds looking at me and my wife. My wife's the same way. And it's like, I'm just trying to do my part to make them, responsible adults. And
Yeah.
like I said, especially during this coronavirus, it's like, man, get out there, help somebody. Just go out and help somebody. And like I just said, you will get more out of it than the person you help. I promise you.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. And right now, if you're saying, well, I can't get out there, that's already the wrong mindset, because we're doing this remotely, obviously via Zoom.
Right.
There's Zoom, there's Microsoft Teams, there's Skype, there's all of these things that you can leverage to be able to reach other people. I mean, one of the things I thought is funny, like people are doing happy hours, throughout these social media sites, and they're just doing all these things, and birthday parties I've even seen, and you can still have that connection. And it's so funny because people are always bashing social media, and I'm like, social media is just a tool, it's how you use it. And now they're really using it for all these good things and these connections, and I'm like, see, and I just hope I hope it's something that sticks. I hope it really sticks, and people. You're right. It could be a lot worse, and I know our experiences, and that's why I always say get out and travel, because people do have it worse. And I know we don't want to compare, and we said that a few moments ago, like don't compare, but at the same time, be grateful for what you have.
Yeah. Well, and use that comparison to drive you, right?
Yes.
Use that. Yes. Don't compare. Don't use it for negativity. Use it when I say that. I say that and use that to drive you to not complain. And like you just said, you can use Zoom and all these other things. You also, in my neighborhood, can go out, and I've done this, to all the elderly people and just be like, hey, are you good? Do you need anything? Right? Because you can have an impact with the people around you. And so that's just it. Yeah, you can have those, happy hours and all that stuff, which is awesome, right? And like you said, social media is a tool. That's what I love, because this robotic exoskeleton leg that I'm getting only happened because of social media and because people care. Cool. And now there's like 1,000 people that helped me get something that I could have never gotten ever because it was so expensive. And now they get to all walk with me. They get it to literally be a piece of me.
Dang.
And help somebody walk again, which is, once again, like I said, it's like, how awesome is that? That every time I post, they get to sit there and say, I helped them do that.
I think it's pretty awesome. It's just the power of community. I think it goes back for thousands, 100,000s of years of just humans helping each other out, a community coming together to raise somebody or something, or help somebody or something. They're just being able to contribute collectively like that, I think, is why we're so strong. And while we're, as a human race, will continue to endure everything that happens before us. Like we've had viruses and plagues and world wars and all this stuff happen before. Like, we're going to get through this as well, and people are going to get hurt, and I understand that, but I think it will be a semi-good chin check for a lot of society and not take things for granted. I hope that we remember that. Like I said, I saw, like, right before we recorded, Gary Vee was on Twitter Live, and he's like giving the example of, I hope it's not like when you get pulled over by a cop car and you're like trying to be nice to the cop, and for like 20 minutes after that you're driving really good and not trying to be an asshole, and then after 20 minutes you kind of just start driving like an idiot again, and you're like, I don't care anymore. So don't continue to drive well in this scenario. So I hope as a human race we continue to be good to each other. Like, you're seeing all these awesome things in Italy. People are singing and having DJs on their, apartment ledges and stuff.
I just saw that this morning too.
Continue to be awesome. Like, this is like what we're doing right now is feasible forever. Like, well, let's continue it. You know what I'm saying? So speaking of continuing things, I want to know, what are some things you still have, I'm sure, a lot ahead of you. Like, what are some of the things that you're still working on right now? And what are some of the issues that you're trying to work through right now? And how are you working through those?
Yeah, so I do. I still have massive issues. I mean, it's very hard for me to even hold my head up because they caged 8 levels in my neck. So most nights I get in the bed and I can't even hold my head up. And my whole left side of my body, although it works physically, I have massive nerve damage, which I can't even explain to people how painful it is. I mean, I literally in 18 months have not had 1 minute of no pain, let alone, I was posting last week. Last week was really hard. It was really hard physically and just tons of pain. So even though I'm getting this brace, it's not going to fix those other 2 things. And physical therapy is my life still. And so I'm just every day getting out of bed and getting up and going through life is a huge challenge.
Yeah,
it's a huge challenge. And I'm sure you could imagine doing that day after day after day. It's taxing, and it's very taxing. And I don't know if there's an end to it. So it's navigating that.
Yeah.
And once again, trying to make it into a positive, and that's what I've tried to do with my journey is I try and keep it 90% positive, just because I feel like the world needs that. But I've also posted a lot of my challenges because that's real.
Mm-hmm.
That's real. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's my day to day right now. And I hope it changes, and I hope eventually it becomes something completely different. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm navigating right now.
Yeah, well, I think you definitely have the right mindset about it. And I do think it's easy to see someone like yourself or whomever. And you're right. Like, that's also an aspect of social media. Like, you just see, oh, he's walking around, he's good. Like, he's fine. He has this brace, he's fine. Oh,
Right.
whatever. Like, but you have no idea what you're feeling. Like you said, like, the left side of my body is quote unquote working. But at the same time, you have all
Right.
that nerve damage and that pain, and people don't feel that. People don't see that. And that's something that only you are enduring, and you're enduring it every single day, every single minute of your life. And 18 months is a long time to be enduring that kind of pain. And I'm sure a lot of it compounds. And just, I think even though it's physical, like I have my own issues, like you're saying, being an RT, like I have my own issues. And I do know that when you don't get any break from it, even though it's physical pain, mentally, it just grinds on you, dude.
Oh, absolutely. And sleep. It's
Yeah.
like last night. I mean, I don't sleep very well. And I'm going through this period right now where I cannot get sleep. And if you don't sleep, people don't realize how important sleep is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, yeah, it's a grind. And mental is the hardest thing
Mm-hmm.
because everything that happens physical, as you know, it's the mental aspect. And, it's, yeah, it's extremely hard.
So speaking of the mental aspect, when this initially happened, and especially when you couldn't move really at all, up until now, the present, what did you do to keep your mind sharp? What did you do to not necessarily give yourself hope, but more in like a educational sense? Like, what did you do to make sure like you didn't wear yourself down and that you stayed like true to who you are?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's not working and maybe never working again. That's been the biggest thing. And going
Mm,
back to 10 years ago from that car accident and
sure.
everything, and just basically melting away, that's been a huge part of it. So as far as staying, and the problem is I always say, oh, I got a good 10 hours a week I could give some employer. I can't tell you when. I'm going to change all the time because it's based off of how I'm feeling. And unfortunately, employers don't want somebody like that. So, I can't believe it because I'm a big TV guy. I haven't watched TV during the day at all in 18 months.
Wow.
And yeah. And I used to, it'd be like Around the Horn, PTI, all my sports shows like that, when I was working and
Yeah.
I haven't watched TV. And I'm not saying that I've been super productive. It's just mentally, I'm like, I'm not watching TV. I could be doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's calling somebody and talking to them,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that is more productive than TV. And then it's been working to what we started with Unbreakable and helping other people and starting the nonprofit and all that. I'm just trying to put whatever little time I have into essentially creating a career. And my career is my lifestyle and helping other people. And
Dude, love
I
that.
don't, I don't have a lot of time for it because physically I can't, but every minute that I can, I've been putting into that.
I think you're the first person in 146 guests that literally name drop the title of the podcast, Create Your Career, into your answer. That was dope.
And I did not, I did not plan that
I
out.
don't think you
Yeah.
planned it either. I could tell when you were saying it, but I
Yeah.
just think that's really funny. And I think that's like, there's a reason, that I picked that. And I love that you're able to do that. So you're like, okay, I can only commit 10 hours to this, but what can I do? It's not the mindset of what can I do. It's what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Yeah.
10 hours, I'm going to do this. I'm going to open this. I'm going to work towards something. And I just love being able to bring something that you're passionate about it into it. Like, this is what I care for. I want to continue to help people because this is what I love. And you're doing it and you're going out there and doing it. And it doesn't matter if you could only do 10 minutes of it a week. You're doing 10 minutes of it a
Right.
week, then none, because there are people that do none a week, no minutes a week on something that they care about. And I always say it doesn't necessarily matter how much time you're doing something. It matters what you're putting into the time you have. And I would almost bet that the time you're putting into those 10 hours a week or however 1 hour a week is bigger than a lot of people putting in for 40 hours a week.
Well, you know what's so funny about that? And I don't know if you were like this before you created your podcast, but I was very successful as far as checking the boxes in the business world. I mean, most people really, envied I was a pharmaceutical account manager. I mean, when you say that, people think it's super sexy. By the way, it's not. But it's like check the boxes, right? Make lots of money, work from home, this, that. And like you just said, but I was dead inside.
Yeah.
Dead inside. And I was working 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, whatever it was. And it was so unfulfilling and just dead inside. And now, like you said, whether I work 10 hours, 40 hours, or 2 minutes, it is 100 times more fulfilling. And my soul is full instead of being, soul sucking. It is fulfilled. And I'm sure that's why you're doing this podcast, because every minute that you spend on it, you feel so fulfilled and you're helping other people, right?
Absolutely, man. It's nutrients for your brain. It's brain food. It's like you could eat a bunch of crappy food and you could be this weakling, or you could eat some really good food, some veggies and some good protein, and it could be a lot less, but you could feel a lot better after it. So the food that goes into your body is exactly the kind of content, the people you're talking to that go into your brain, and you're doing exactly that, man. And this has been such another powerful episode and so good. I'm so glad we did it. I'm humbled again for the nth time that I could have you on here on a Sunday. It's really special. So please tell everybody that's listening where we can find you, whether it be your Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, humbling for me too. Thank you so much. And
absolutely.
I'm just completely blown away by podcasts like yours, where
thank you.
You're just grinding, and so impressed. So anyways, we're trying, like I said, we're trying to change the world. And on Instagram, I'm at unbreakable_journey. The 501c3 we created is My Unbreakable Journey, because everybody has their unbreakable journey. And we raised monies for this race, and we raised a little bit money more than that. And instead of keeping it for myself and my family, which, trust me, we could really use, we're donating that out, and we're helping other people. And my wife and I were just talking today about this whole coronavirus. And there's a lot of people that are going to be hit economically and financially and can't pay their bills. And so we're really watching that. And, but at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. But eventually we're going to have a website. We're in our infancy. We're just trying to get it in reps. Yeah, but like I said, we just partnered up with High Mountain Heroes, which is another nonprofit. It's so funny. Last Friday, like 9 days ago, when the world was a totally different place, and so we donated $1,000 to them. They're trying to get a tank wheelchair for veterans they take out on adventures. So we donated $1,000, plus we have T-shirts on sale right now. If you go to my Instagram through Custom Ink, just Unbreakable Journey shirts. They're stars and stripes. 100% of the proceeds are going to that nonprofit. But like I said, just follow my page and just try and help us change the world, because everybody who's listening to this, they can. And it starts just by going out to your neighbors and saying, how can I help you? It's simple. That's simple, man.
It is simple, but you need to take action, like we were saying earlier. So it's great. It's great to have these thoughts. It's great to have these conversations. It's a huge good step to have, but going out there and making things, it's like pretty crazy to hear you say that, you guys got you netted a little bit of money over the top and you're giving that back, and then 100% of the proceeds for the shirts are going back. So I mean, it's just stupid crazy awesome what you're doing here, man. It's really powerful. So, man, like I said, you guys will all be able to see all of that in the show notes, whether you're on YouTube. Check it out. You'll be able to follow his story, see the 501c3 and everything else. So, Scott, thank you so much for being here, and I really, really do appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, brother. Thank you.